Good afternoon, Robert Scribbler. It is September 26, 2018. Thank you for joining me for another climate change and clean energy video blog. Now for this segment, I want to talk about a few headlines as it relates to clean energy vehicles. One regarding a Volkswagen announcement about an admittedly attractive new compact electric vehicle with a long range and a low cost, and a number of issues relating Tesla with regards to its surge in electric vehicle deliveries and overall responsibility as a clean energy company. But before I get into that, I'd just like to talk about electric vehicles in general and provide a bit of context for you. Particularly, I'd like to note that the production of electric vehicles by auto manufacturers is a social and moral good because it enables the reduction of both carbon emissions and tailpipe-based air pollution, which reduces negative impacts to individuals as far as health impacts and the massive negative impacts coming from human-caused climate change. At present, an electric vehicle versus a comparable internal combustion engine vehicle produces 50% or less of the carbon emissions, even as it produces zero tailpipe emissions in use, which results in considerably less damage to both the environment and to human health. But in addition to that, the electric vehicles, when mated with purely wind and solar energy systems, produce 85 to 90% less lifetime carbon emissions. And if manufacturing transitions to low or zero carbon-based manufacturing, which is possible if you do things like electrified transport and use things like zero emissions steel and zero emissions material, or even negative emissions material like carbon fiber from atmospherically harvested carbon, then you end up with a lifetime carbon emissions for electric vehicles of zero or potentially less. Now, there is no such potential with internal combustion engine vehicles that burn fossil fuels, but there is that potential with electric vehicles. So not only are present electric vehicles a moral good, but moving forward, electric vehicles themselves provide the potential for a rising scale of reduced carbon emissions and hitting that goal of zero carbon emissions or less in transportation. So keeping this in mind, I want to talk about some announcements by Volkswagen and a progress report and a bit of perspective with regards to Tesla. So there's been a recent announcement from Volkswagen that they will produce an electric sedan which has nominally been called the Neo, by 2019, which is expected to have over 220 miles EPA range and cost in the range of $30,000 US or 25,000 euros in Europe. This would be a very attractive electric vehicle, and it would produce a highly capable electric vehicle in the lower cost segment, producing serious competition for the likes of the Nissan Leaf, for example, and be the first truly long-range electric vehicle in the $30,000 or less price range. However, I'd just like to add a few words of caution here. First off, Volkswagen has been well known for making big promises when it comes to electric vehicles, but not really delivering or post-dating when they expect to deliver these electric vehicles. It's a bit more optimistic, the fact that Volkswagen is stating that they will produce this car by next year, which would be a really good thing if they did. But given Volkswagen's track record and the cloud of the emissions scandal that hangs over Volkswagen, we can take this announcement from Volkswagen with a little bit of a grain of salt. It's not to say that Volkswagen won't produce this electric vehicle. It's just to say that we should be cautious, and we should note that this electric vehicle is not currently being produced. It's not expected to be produced until at least 2019. So yay, Volkswagen, nice announcement, but please show us the electric vehicles. That's what we want. We want the production electric vehicles so we can get them, and so we can kick our carbon habits and kick out the air pollution and drive responsibly. So a cautious bit of good news from Volkswagen. Now, moving on, I'd just like to highlight this article by Zachary Shahan over at Clean Technica entitled Perspective Yo, which talks about the relative goods produced by Tesla as an all-clean energy automaker and in achieving its promise of mass production of electric vehicles. It's true that many people are having to wait a long time for Tesla vehicles, but this is due to the fact that people want electric vehicles, and there's really not very many other automakers out there producing electric vehicles at such a high volume. In fact, there's likely no other automaker at this time that is producing as many electric vehicles as Tesla, possibly BYD over in China, but that's in large part due to policy drivers in China, and those vehicles are only for the Chinese market. So Tesla is really doing what a lot of other automakers promised to do, said they would do, or said couldn't be done. Tesla's doing it. So far, no one else is. And just to provide a bit of context with regards to Tesla's success versus the failure of other automakers to provide clean energy vehicles, Tesla's Q3 estimates, and this is just a preliminary estimate, for production range from 70 to 80,000, which is nearly double the quarterly production that occurred last quarter in Q2 of 2018 at around 40,000. And looking at Tesla's trends, you do see a considerable trend of growth over time with a huge bump projected in the third quarter. Now, this massive bump in Q3 production and deliveries would extrapolate to around a 30,000 vehicle per year production and sales rate. And if Tesla achieves in the range of 300 to 400,000 vehicles produced by the end of 2019, it will be many years likely ahead of any reasonable competition from Volkswagen or others. So just a bit of perspective when you hear talk about Tesla killers and how these vehicles that are going to be produced by X or Y, Volkswagen or BMW, are somehow going to be immediate major competitors with Tesla. In fact, right now Tesla's dominating, and these other automakers really need to provide some proofs that they're actually producing Tesla competitors rather than talking about it or talking about plans to produce electric vehicles, and rise to the same level of social and environmental responsibility as all clean energy Tesla. So just some perspective on the overall market, some trends with regards to Volkswagen and Tesla, and some hopeful statements in the sense that, yes, we do hope that Volkswagen does produce its less than $30,000 220-mile range electric vehicle by 2019. But in all honesty, we won't believe it until we see it. Thank you for joining me, and I'll be chatting with you soon.